Welcome to the Nonprofits. It seems like every week we have a story about Florida. Well, this week is no exception. Cindy Plaza, what's happening in the Sunshine State this week?
Typical Florida guy story again. This story from for the Friendly Atheists and Manmeda, written on May 29th, 2024. It talks about a program in Florida installed by our friend Governor DeSantis in 2022 that gives money to teachers if they follow a series of courses meant to basically turn them into some sort of missionaries for their Christian nationalist agenda. This is part of what he calls his civics literacy excellence initiative, along with the defending of public schools in favor of private and charter schools.
So then this is the second story this week so far that we've done that's about education. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is there something sinister going on? Is this part of a larger plan, or do you think maybe just a coincidence?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a coincidence. It's a feature, not a bug. But while the far-right manufactures an ideological war against the so-called woke agenda, they are actually waging a real war on secularism in this country, trying to turn it into some sort of theocracy in every way possible. I see those as the last attempts from a small number of old white men to stay relevant, because they realize that religion is going away from the population, and so they try to keep it as it is as much as they can. But even if it's a small number of people, they still can do a lot of harm. And so we still need to fight back, hence our presence here.
So it seems like it's like almost cartoonishly obvious propaganda campaign, right? Kara, do you think that these propaganda techniques are going to be effective?
I'll say again, I'm going to take a cautiously optimistic view on this. I think although this is a definite campaign trying to get a lot of dangerous ideas and ideologies into schools that I am concerned about, having looked at some of the images in this article where it shows, what was on the slides in this literacy excellence initiative, I mean, it's almost comical. Some of these slides read like some of the Christian homeschool workbooks that I did as a child that are, unsourced, or, the sources that are in them are things like, scripture verses or misleading references to what the founders collectively may have thought or said. There's one slide stating the Christian principle of covenant with God is reflected in Locke's social compact theory, which is a new one on me. I am aware of a social contract theory by Locke, but I don't know, maybe I missed that one. But I think that these are not the kind of arguments that are going to be very convincing to teachers who are educated and have a strong background in their field. And I understand that not all teachers necessarily are able to teach classes that they have a lot of degrees in or things like that. And so, yes, there are going to be teachers coming here who maybe aren't able to tell that these are not factual statements and that these are not sound arguments. But I think, for the most part, I find it kind of funny that they're trying to educate educators using very factually inaccurate, wildly biased slides saying ridiculous things. I mean, if I was there as an educator, I would be first offended and then amused by how silly this is. And I suspect there are people that are going to be having that reaction. But at the same time, there may also be teachers who believe in this ideology and want to be teaching it to kids because they think it's the truth or the best thing for them. And I think this is the kind of thing that would embolden people like that and make them think not only that this is now allowed, but it's being encouraged and it's something they should do. So for that reason, I think it is very dangerous, but on its face, it's kind of absurd too.
So you said offended first and then maybe amused. I would add maybe terrified as the stage 3 of the reaction to that. Jason, can you flesh out some of the details of what DeSantis has going on down there?
Yeah, man, I took some notes on this. So, this started in kind of around 2022. Florida began indoctrinating public school teachers with this Christian nationalism, more or less, to spread misinformation. DeSantis, he had a multi-million-dollar, what we just talked about, the Civics Literacy Excellence Initiative. It's hard to say. 2022. So, in 2022, there were several voluntary 3-day training seminars. Here's the thing. It's always money, right? Fucking capitalism. Cindy's talked about this before. Teachers who attended were told that they would receive a $700 stipend, which is a lot more than teachers making multiple days worth of work, for coming to the thing. And they would be eligible for a $3,000 bonus if they completed, additional tasks. The seminars, the seminars they were developed with the help of Hillside College. It's a conservative Christian school in Michigan. There was additional participation by the, quote, Bill of Rights Institute. And it was founded by one of the right-wing Koch brothers, KOCH, just so in case nobody knew. Look it up, KOCH, look them up. So it endorsed the Christian nationalist beliefs that conservative Christianity is the bedrock of the country, that church-state separation as we know it is actually a myth, and that the Christian God gave us the rights we have. And they just, and like Kara was talking about before, they just generally promoted misinformation at these seminars. And I really feel like, I don't know if this is so much to like change people's minds, like, oh, this makes sense. This is great. I think what it is, you're just knocking down more walls of that church state separation thing. And you're telling the public kind of like what happened with other people who have been in places of extreme power in our country. They say some dumb shit, and then the dude at work's like, well, this guy said some dumb shit, so that means I'm right about my dumb shit because I believe in his dumb shit, so I'm gonna say some dumb fucking shit, and yeah, high five on some dumb shit. Oh, you're just a fucking bitch for not being cool with my dumb shit that I've 10 years ago somebody would have fucking maybe thrown something at me for saying, but now since this fucking guy who's in charge said some dumb shit, that's what this is. This is more a dumb shit campaign. That's all it really is.
I want to touch on, Jason, you mentioned the money, right? So there's a stipend and then additional stipends for deeper dive. And so it seems that not only are they trying to propagandize teachers in general, but maybe even targeting the newer teachers. They're the ones who are going to be at the bottom end of the pay scale. They're the ones who are going to need those those extra opportunities to make a few extra bucks, but they're also the ones who might be the least secure in their, in their subject area knowledge. So what exactly are some of the, can you give us some examples of some of the misinformation that's being spread around there?
Well, so, I mean, Jesus Christ, so much. So they downplay slavery. They embellished the impact the Judeo-Christian beliefs had on the nation's founding documents, the social compact or contact that they had. And they implied that the conservative judicial philosophy that says, quote, the founders' desires are all that matter when deciding a case, was engineered into our legal system. They prioritize the views of religious thinkers over the Enlightenment thinkers when it comes to those who influenced the founders. They cherry pick connections between the Bible and the Federalist Papers, i.e. creation, the fall, 10 Commandments, as if to say those were the basis for our founding document.
Right, yeah.
And it's wild because the state awarded, you brought up money, the state awarded 11,000 teachers more than $33 million for completing those training sessions in 2023. DeSantis, his proposed budget for 24 through 25, which they'd released in December, included $45 million for the continuation of this indoctrination program. So this is real similar to the Texas, private school voucher things that we've talked about before. They're incentivizing people to more or less buy in. And of course, people need money. Teachers aren't paid what they should be fucking paid. Right. So it's going to incentivize. And then you get the social pressure thing where it's like, I don't need to rock the boat.
I wonder if they're going to spin this as a way of increasing teacher salaries.
Well, they're going to use it as a way to increase teacher salaries. And it's also going to ostracize teachers who don't
Right.
You know, it's just going to
Right.
be just another us them tactic. 100%. I prophesy it.
You heard it here first, folks. Right here on the nonprofits. Cindy, I want to come back to you for a second here. We know that there's various kinds of immunity that protect governments and government officials from things like civil lawsuits. But if the policy decisions are demonstrably harmful, as it seems is the case here, and possibly even a breach of a government official's oath, do you think government officials, like a governor, for example, should be vulnerable to civil lawsuits based off of their policy decisions? Because currently now they enjoy a certain amount of protection from that kind of thing. But do you think if we started holding them a little bit more responsible in the civil arena, do you think that would change the landscape here?
It's a very interesting question. Before I answer it, I would like to just point out something, because we are talking about this very specific event, but we need to put it into context with something we talked about like 2 weeks ago. It's about the trend to accept more and more teachers without any degrees. So when you factor that into consideration with this specific event, then it makes even more sense to target those teachers, because since they are not qualified, they are less paid, and so they will be more entitled to try and go to those seminars to get some money. So yeah, we need to put the two side by side, because in my opinion, it's a concerted effort to join the two. But to your question, I would say I'm going both ways there, because I think it's dangerous to start making politicians accountable for their decisions as while they're in office. But on the other hand, we need to have people who decide more based on data, information, and science, rather than just political views or indoctrination or
Go figure, huh?
yeah, and so finding a way to apply that without I don't know. It's a tough topic. I'd have to think about it.
Okay. I have one other question here I want to ask. I'll give everybody on the panel a chance to answer this one. So the federal government gives states a fairly wide berth when it comes to selecting their K-12 curriculum standards when they want to decide what the state wants to teach. We've seen the federal government step in certain circumstances where states were getting a little too far afield. Slavery is a perfect example of that, right? Slavery was declared illegal at the national level as some states were protesting against that. So so we'll start with Kara here. Do you think that this is a good argument for the federal government to step in and to have a more hands-on approach with setting curriculum standards? Or do you think this is just Florida's problem and Floridans are going to fix it?
Oh, well, that is a really complex question that I think people have been arguing over since the beginning of the United States. So I don't know that I can give a great resolution to that question.
You have 30 seconds. Ready, go.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it, but I will say that, no, I don't think this is just a problem for Floridians to fix. As we've discussed previously, this same kind of thing is going on in Texas. It's going on in other states. It's affecting people all over the country in different ways. And it is an instance where if you happen to live in a state that has a governor in power who wants to basically force schools or do everything that they can to encourage schools to teach kids garbage, literally just factual inaccuracies,
Right.
That is an argument for some kind of regulation for that. Having said that, I mean, we could be having the same problem at the national level too. There's no guarantee that the same kind of people with the same kind of goals wouldn't just put themselves into positions of power in the federal government. And now we're just doing it at that level too. So I think the solution has to be something else besides that. But it is a concern, and I guess my answer is I don't know how to fix this, and that does keep me up at night.
So you think maybe the federal government stepping in would be a little maybe on the heavy-handed side, or runs a risk of being misused, kind of like, you know, the atomic bomb, right? That was originally developed as a quote unquote deterrent, but it's a horrible, wicked device in the wrong hands. Jason, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's necessary that the federal government starts paying attention to what's going on. If not, that's at that point, I have no faith that they will. I mean, with the Roe v. Wade shit, that's, you know, those people fucking lost all. I mean, just lost me all hope. It's terrible. And with what they're talking about with Obergefell and all this, but yeah, that's what the Fed's there for. Because what's happening here is a clear violation. They're incentivizing people to merge church state. They're literally what they're doing is treasonous and traitorous. That's what DeSantis is promoting. Okay. Something that is treasonous and traitorous to the American way of life and to the foundations of what we call America. He's crossing into too many lanes, and it's wrong. He's going the wrong way in traffic. I don't know how other way to put it. You know, so yes, I think the federal government should step in. The reason they're not is because, you know, they fucking suck. So, you know, this should have already been happening. The fact that people like DeSantis, people who have a message like DeSantis, how do I say this? The messages that DeSantis is promoting, in my opinion, are anti-American, and the decisions he's been making, especially with things like this, and actually funneling money into it and promoting it and having it be a state thing is, in my opinion, illegal and should be. I don't know how to say it without, you know, going for or against a candidate. I'm just really not good with what's going on, and I think it needs to have already been stopped and dealt with. And the fact that he already has a fund, it's disgusting to me. So
Cindy, do you agree with Kara that we think something should be done, but we're not really sure? Or do you ascribe by the burn it all down approach of Jason? Or what do you think on that, Cindy? Do you think the federal government should step in and say, Florida, slap them on the wrist? No, that's not okay.
I think that all local school boards should be terminated, and everything about education should be decided at the federal level. I think because the possibility to infiltrate local school boards is extremely easy. We've seen it in the last years. It's been infiltrated by crazy people with crazy ideas, and they get elected. And it needs to be decided not by parents, but by scientists. And
you mean people who are knowledgeable in the subject areas? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That makes a little too much sense to me.
But yeah, since I'm not from the U.S., so I don't have this view of state rights and our founding fathers, which I think it's another huge problem. I mean, France had I think it's 14 different constitutions since the revolution, and I don't understand how the entire United States keep talking about how we should or should not follow the words of people who are dead, have been dead for 200 years. I don't understand that framing. I don't understand that mentality. I don't get it.
I think that's a good point to wrap up here. We had some great opinions. I think we had some great discussions. We could have kept talking for hours and hours, I think, but we're out of time for tonight. If you want to hear more of this kind of thing, click on these links here.